Long before the stars were named, before gods had temples or stories had names, there were the first ones ancient beings whispered about in nearly every culture on Earth. Tonight we follow their traces, the first gods of ancient Earth. In the beginning, there was only the deep silence of the world. Long before human voices ever whispered into the night, long before the first plow broke the soil or the first fire warmed a cave, the earth and sky slept side by side. In that primordial slumber, there were no maps or borders, no kings or tribes, no north or south, only darkness and potential. Yet from that deep and formless calm, ancient peoples across the earth imagined the first sparks of consciousness. They named these sparks their gods. And from those names came stories, stories to explain the dawn, the hills, the sun, the river, the thunder. Some of these tales sprang from the desert sands of Egypt, others from the fertile plains of Mesopotamia, the misty forests of northern Europe, the starlit valleys of India, or the bamboo groves of ancient China. Each culture peered into the abyss of before and found an image looking back, an image of the first gods, the first creators, the beings who spoke the world into being or carved it out of chaos. Tonight, we will walk softly through these myths, letting them glow dimly like campfires by which you can rest and dream. This script, written with gentle care, will invite you to wander in and out of time. There is no rush. Each story drifts into the next, like the slow current of a river. If you fall asleep partway through, the gods will keep watch over the rest of the tale. Why myths matter. A prelude. The concept of a first god, a prime mover who stirs the cosmic soup, is far older than writing. It emerges from the human need to find origin and meaning. Consider the earliest humans gathered around a fire, hearing the roar of a storm or the crack of thunder. Those sounds feel larger than any person. They demand explanation. How better to explain them than to imagine beings who control them? When a child asked where the sun goes at night, a storyteller might answer that the sun sails on a golden boat through an underworld river. When an elderly woman looked at the stars and wondered why some crossed the sky, a priest might reply that the gods are carrying torches across the heavens. These answers might not satisfy a scientist, but they speak to the heart. They offer comfort, pattern, and poetry in a world that often feels chaotic. If you have ever watched clouds and imagined shapes, you have participated in this creative impulse. The human mind loves to connect dots, to weave narratives. The first gods are the ultimate connection-making. They link the unknowable to the familiar. They turn the cosmic into the personal. And in doing so, they allow us to see ourselves reflected in the stars. As we embark on this lengthy journey, we will slow down and savor each myth. We will not rush through them like a list of names. Rather, we will breathe with them, feel the textures of their landscapes, and listen to the cadence of their language. We will explore not just the stories, but the emotions they carry, the questions they ask, the wisdom they whisper. And along the way, we will weave in insights from later thinkers who pondered the cosmos. We will hear how philosophers attempted to abstract the myths into first principles, how poets reimagined them, and how historians looked for kernels of truth beneath layers of legend. This script is thus both story and reflection, a tapestry of mythic time and human thought. We begin by acknowledging that across the world there are many sources discussing these myths. When you search for information about the first gods, you will find diverse links from museum websites, educational pages, and more. Some of these sources talk about Atum, the first god of the Heliopolitan creation story. Others refer to Mesopotamian deities like Anu and Enki, Greek primordial beings like Chaos and Gaia, and Chinese myths about Pangu. These search results reveal the rich array of stories that ancient cultures told about their first gods. With that gentle acknowledgement, we will explore those stories ourselves, drawing from general knowledge and the broad tapestry of myth. The Whispering Waters, Egypt and the birth of Atum. Imagine the first morning over Egypt. The sun is not yet a blazing disk on the horizon. Instead, it is a thought waiting to manifest. All around is the primeval sea, called Nun. The waters are dark and still, but within them lies everything that will ever be the potential of mountains and kings and cats and scribes and seeds. Out of these waters rises a mound of silt and clay, emerging like the back of a great turtle. Atop this mound stands a figure, alone and self-created. This is Atum. In the ancient Egyptian imagination, Atum is the first god not born of any mother or father, but arising spontaneously. He is the heart of the Heliopolitan creation myth from the city of Heliopolis. Atum is sometimes depicted as a man wearing the double crown of Upper and Lower Egypt, sometimes as a serpent, sometimes as the evening sun. He is both the setting sun and the dawn. He is the moment when something emerges from nothing. In some tales, he forms himself by speaking his own name. In others, he brings himself to life through sheer will. When he realizes that he is alone in the universe, he longs for companionship. From within himself, he produces his own children, Shu, the god of air, and Tefnut, the goddess of moisture. In one version, he coughs or spits them out. In another, he uses a more intimate method, creating them through an act of self-love. To fully appreciate Atum's story, we must understand the broader context of Egyptian theology. Egypt was not monolithic. Its cities worshiped different gods as creators. In Memphis, for example, priests promoted Ptah as the supreme artisan god. Ptah created the world by thinking and speaking it into existence. He imagined everything in his heart, then spoke their names with his tongue, and they came to be. Thus, Ptah's creative power lay in words. Similarly, in Hermopolis, the Ogdoad creation myth described 8 primeval gods, 4 male-female pairs representing aspects of chaos, Nun and Nonet, the primordial waters, He and Hauhet, infinity, Amun and Amonet, hiddenness, Kuk and Kauket, darkness. From their union came an egg on the surface of the primeval waters. A cosmic goose, or in some versions, an ibis, laid the egg from which emerged the sun god. This sun god could be Ra or Thoth, depending on the myth. Thoth, the ibis-headed god of wisdom, was also said to have uttered the words that brought the world forth. These variants show that Egyptians were comfortable with multiple cosmogonies. They saw them not as competing, but as complementary. Over time, Atum became closely associated with Ra, the midday sun. Together, they were Atum-Ra, encompassing both the beginning and the daily cycle of light. The name Ra perhaps came from a root meaning sun, while Atum implies completion. In some prayers, Atum and Ra are separate. In others, they merge. Likewise, Amun, originally a local Theban air god, rose to prominence in the New Kingdom, c. 1550-1070 BCE. Amun's name means hidden. He was seen as an invisible force behind creation. Priests declared him Amun-Ra, king of gods. He absorbed attributes of Atum, Ra, and other deities. The famous great hymn to Amun praises him as the father of all, the bull of his mother, self-created, hidden and yet present in everything. This evolution reflects political changes. Thebes became powerful, and its local god became universal. Egyptian theology also incorporated the concept of Ma'at, truth, order, and balance. Ma'at was both a goddess and a principle. She was depicted as a woman with an ostrich feather on her head. Her feather was used in the weighing of hearts in the afterlife. The presence of Ma'at meant that the cosmos ran smoothly. Atum's act of creation thus included not just producing gods, but establishing Ma'at. Without Ma'at, chaos, Isfet, could return. Rituals and laws existed to maintain Ma'at. The pharaoh himself was called upholder of Ma'at. Without the first gods upholding balance, the Nile might not flood, crops might fail, or the sun might not rise. Beyond the grand temples, everyday Egyptians also told simpler stories. Children might hear how the goddess Isis tricked the sun god Ra to learn his secret name. One day, when Ra was walking on earth, Isis crafted a snake from clay and his saliva. The snake bit Ra, causing him pain. Isis offered to heal him if he revealed his name. Reluctantly, he told her, giving her power. This story shows that even first gods could be vulnerable. It underscores the ancient belief in the power of names. To know a name was to control the thing it named. That is why Atum's act of naming himself was so potent. It brought him into being. Another feature of Egyptian creation myths is their connection to physical landscape. The idea of the primeval mound mirrors the fact that after annual floods, small patches of land would first appear as the waters receded. Egyptians called these mounds benben. The obelisk may have evolved from this concept, representing the first land touched by the sun. Obelisks were often capped with electrum or gold to reflect sunlight. They became rays of the sun, linking heaven and earth. Atum was sometimes called Lord of the Benben. When you see an obelisk, imagine it as the world's first mountain, the place where Atum stood. Underneath these myths lay a sophisticated theology of magic, Heka. Heka was both a god and the force of divine power used by gods and humans. Creation itself was an act of Heka. Priests learned sacred words and gestures to harness Heka. They believed that their recitations during daily temple rituals helped sustain the world. They would wash, dress, and feed statue images of gods, symbolically renewing the god's power each day. In this sense, the first gods lived in a symbiotic relationship with humanity. People honored them, and they sustained the cosmos. Without daily rituals, the world might revert to the primeval waters. As we leave Egypt, remember Atum's dual nature, both a solitary entity in the abyss and a radiant sun in the sky. He is loneliness and creativity, dusk and dawn. His story invites us to find creation in stillness. When you sit quietly, you too can imagine a world unfolding from within. These two children, Shu and Tefnut, become the first pillars of the world. Shu holds up the sky. Tefnut becomes the dew and life-giving moist air. Together they create space and air between the waters below and the endless sky above. Shu and Tefnut are often depicted as a man with feathers on his head and a lion-headed woman with a sun disk. Their children will be Geb, the god of earth, and Nut, the goddess of the sky. Geb and Nut embrace each other so tightly that nothing can exist between them until Shu steps in and separates them, lifting Nut up to become the arching sky while Geb remains below as the earth. The arch of Nut is painted blue and dotted with stars. Geb is brown or green, covered in vegetation and rivers. From the union of Geb and Nut come the next generation of gods, Osiris, Isis, Set, Nephthys, and in some accounts, a hidden child named Horus the Elder. Osiris and Isis will eventually rule as divine king and queen. Set will become the antagonist. Nephthys will assist the dead. Horus will avenge his father and restore order. This cycle of creation, Atum rising from Nun, giving birth to the first pairs, separating earth and sky, forms the core of the ancient Egyptian worldview. To the Egyptians, creation was not a one-time event, but a continuous process. Every sunrise was Atum's rebirth. Every flood of the Nile was Nun's waters renewing the land. Priests recited spells to reenact creation during temple rituals. Farmers prayed to the first gods before sowing seeds. The pharaoh, representing Horus on earth, mediated between the divine and human realms. Even the simplest of tasks, like lighting a lamp, could be a microcosm of Atum, striking a light in the primordial darkness. Thus, the first gods of Egypt were always present, not just ancient history, but living power. That is why Atum was sometimes shown merging with Ra, the sun god, to form Atum-Ra. They were the same cycle, beginning and end. In later times, when you walk through the ruins of Karnak or Luxor, you might see carvings of Atum on stone walls. There, he holds a papyrus scroll, or an ankh, the symbol of life, as he breathes into the nostrils of pharaohs. Hieroglyphic inscriptions around him recount his roles. The ancient scribes wrote his story in black ink on papyrus scrolls, preserved in the dryness of tombs. These texts remind you of a simple truth. For the Egyptians, the first gods were intimately tied to the cycle of life and death, earth and sky, breath and moisture. Atum, Shu, Tefnut, Geb, and Nut. These names are not just characters, but fundamental forces. Today, many websites and texts talk about Atum's role. When you search online, you might find pages noting that Atum was the first deity associated with the primeval mound and self-creator. You will read about how he produced the twin deities Shu and Tefnut. These sources help keep the memory of the Egyptian myth alive. But even without the internet, if you stand by the Nile at dawn and watch the first light shimmer over the river, you can feel Atum's spirit rising again. The sky's great vault, Mesopotamia, and the ascendancy of Anu. Now we leave the Nile's banks and travel east, across deserts and mountains, to the land between two rivers, Mesopotamia. This region, nestled between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, is the cradle of some of the world's earliest civilizations, Sumer, Akkad, Babylon, and Assyria. Here, people built cities of mud brick, invented writing, and told their own stories of creation. In the earliest Sumerian myths, the universe began with a primeval sea, just as in Egypt. This sea gave birth to heaven and earth. The sky, Anu, and the earth, Ki, or Ninhursag, were locked in a tight embrace, just like Geb and Nut. The first gods emerged from this union. In many accounts, Anu is the supreme father figure, the god of the sky and king of gods. He is sometimes spelled An. From him come his children Enlil, Enki, and Ninhursag. Enlil, the god of air and atmosphere, separates heaven and earth, just as Shu did in Egypt, and claims the earth as his domain. Enlil is a storm god, a god of breath and word. He shapes destiny with his command. Enki, known later by the Akkadians as Ea, becomes the god of fresh water, wisdom, and craft. He dwells in the underground Abzu, or Apsu, a freshwater ocean beneath the earth. Ninhursag, or Kai, is the mother goddess of mountains and fertility. To fully appreciate the richness of Mesopotamian cosmology, we should visit the temples and ziggurats that dotted the region. Each city-state had its patron deity. In Nippur, the home of the Eker Temple, Enlil was revered. In Eridu, near the Persian Gulf, a temple was dedicated to Enki. In Uruk, Anu had his temple, shared with Inanna, Ishtar, the goddess of love and war. Each city believed its god to be central to creation, reflecting a healthy rivalry and diversity of thought. Priests composed hymns praising their god's creative acts. For example, a hymn might describe how Enlil commanded the skies to release rain, or how Enki shaped the meandering paths of rivers. The gods often collaborated. In one myth, Enki advises Enlil on how to bring forth plants and animals. Another aspect of Mesopotamian creation stories is the concept of the me. The me are divine decrees or powers that govern aspects of civilization. Kingship, truth, weaving, building, sexual love, scribal arts. Enki is said to possess the me and to distribute them to gods and cities. Without the me, there would be no order. In one myth, Inanna travels to Enki's house to obtain the me. Enki, perhaps drunk, gives them to her, and she brings them to Uruk. The story underscores the idea that creation is not just physical, but social. Gods create not only rivers and mountains, but also laws, crafts, and rituals. The flood story is another key element of Mesopotamian cosmology. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, Utnapishtim recounts how the gods decided to send a flood because humans were too noisy. The god Ea, Enki, however, warns Utnapishtim, instructing him to build a boat and gather animals. The flood comes, destroying everything, but Utnapishtim survives and is granted immortality. The flood story appears earlier in the Sumerian tale of Ziusudra. In both, water is both creative and destructive. It is interesting that the gods may regret the flood. They gather like flies around the sacrifice Utnapishtim offers after the waters recede, suggesting remorse. This shows the gods as fallible and emotional. We must also mention the myth of the descent of Inanna. Inanna decides to visit the underworld, ruled by her sister Ereshkigal. To enter, she must surrender her me and pass through 7 gates, removing items of clothing at each. When she arrives, Ereshkigal kills her and hangs her body on a hook. The world suffers in her absence. Enki creates 2 tiny beings from dirt to rescue her. They slip into the underworld and empathize with Ereshkigal's pain, causing her to grant them a boon. They ask for Inanna's body. She is revived, but must provide a replacement. She chooses her husband Dumuzi, who takes her place. This myth speaks to the cycles of death and renewal, echoing agricultural seasons. Inanna, though not a first god, is intimately tied to life force. Her story reflects older myths of descent and return, similar to later Greek tales of Persephone. Mesopotamian mythology also includes stories of cosmic kingship. Anu, though often remote, bestows the crown. Kings would enact rituals in which they symbolically received the crown and the scepter from Anu or Enlil. In the city of Kish, kingship was said to descend from heaven. This idea legitimized rulers. If a king lost favor, e.g., after defeat, it was said that the gods had withdrawn the me of kingship. This concept connects divine creation with political authority. Early humans were created to serve the gods. Kings were intermediaries. The first gods thus shaped not only the cosmos, but social order. As we leave the Fertile Crescent, consider the sound of cuneiform tablets being pressed. Each wedge pressed into clay is a human trying to capture divine whispers. The scribes wrote about the birth of gods to make sense of river floods, political upheavals, and personal tragedy. In our world of digital text, their clay marks still speak. They remind us that writing itself is magic, the power to preserve words. The first gods gave humans speech and mind. We repay them by remembering their stories. The Mesopotamians described the cosmos in a series of layers. Above was the realm of Anu. Below was the earth. Under the earth lay Abzu, the freshwater ocean, and below that, possibly, the netherworld. On the earth, humanity would dwell, and the gods would descend to interact with them. The gods were also very human in their emotions. They loved and quarreled and tricked each other. The creation of humankind itself is described in several versions. In one, the gods, tired of doing labor themselves, created humans from clay mixed with the blood of a slain god. In another, Enki and Ninhursag shaped humans to dig canals and serve in temples. Thus, humans were created so that the gods could rest and dine while people farmed, built, and offered sacrifices. One of the most famous Mesopotamian myths is the Enuma Elish, the Babylonian epic of creation. In this story, the original beings are Apsu, the freshwater ocean, and Tiamat, the saltwater sea. They create younger gods who eventually annoy Apsu with their noise, leading him to decide to destroy them. But the wise god Ea, Enki, kills Apsu first, neutralizing the threat. Tiamat, enraged, creates an army of monstrous creatures to avenge her husband. The younger gods choose Marduk to lead them. He slays Tiamat, splits her body in 2, and forms the heavens and the earth. Marduk then creates humans from the blood of Tiamat's second husband, Kingu. Marduk becomes supreme in this story, and the older gods like Anu and Ea step aside. Yet the memory of Anu remains. His name appears in lists of gods and in incantations. Anu's holy city of Uruk had a ziggurat dedicated to him. Even though Marduk took the spotlight in the Babylonian era, the people still honored Anu as the sky itself. As you drift through the streets of ancient Ur or Babylon, you might hear a temple hymn praising Anu's luminous heavens. In the night, priests would watch the movements of stars, the Yi-A writing of Anu's hand in the sky. Each star was considered a god or a messenger, and Anu was the chief of them all. When kings came to power, they sometimes claimed to be the descendants of Anu, or to have been granted kingship by him. In myth, Anu sometimes confers royal authority with a scepter. In art, he is often depicted wearing a horned cap and long robe. His symbol might be a star or a pair of wings. In the first epic tale of Gilgamesh, there is a scene where Gilgamesh spurns the goddess Ishtar. She complains to her parents, Anu and Antu, who consider sending the bull of heaven to kill Gilgamesh. Anu is thus not just a remote sky, but a voice that can decide the fate of heroes. For the Mesopotamians, the first gods were intimately bound up with water and clay, stars and storms. Enlil's winds could topple mountains. Enki's waters could bring life to dry fields. When you look at the map of that region, with its snaking rivers and dry plains, you see why water gods like Enki were revered. Without irrigation canals, there would be famine. Without the sky's kindness, there would be dust storms. So the first gods took on these forms not as distant abstractions, but as living processes. Today, the memory of Anu and Enlil and Enki survives in cuneiform tablets in museums. Scholars puzzle over their wedge-shaped marks, reading into them stories of creation and kingship. The British Museum and other institutions host exhibits on Mesopotamian religion, revealing clay figurines of gods and fragments of the Enuma Elish. As you read translations or watch lectures on these myths, you step into the world of ancient scribes. They wrote about Tiamat and Marduk to explain the chaos of floods and wars. They inscribed prayers to Anu, asking for gentle rains, and to Ea, asking for healing water. In those lines of cuneiform, you can still feel the heartbeat of early humanity, a desire to make sense of existence, to call upon the first gods for comfort. The brooding darkness and Gaia's green, the Greek primordials. We follow the Mediterranean north and west, landing on the shores of Greece. Here, under clear skies and beside rocky hills, the ancient Greeks spun their own tales of the world's first gods. Their stories are preserved in epic poems like Hesiod's Theogony, and in later works by poets and playwrights. In them, the universe begins with a single word: chaos. Chaos is not just disorder, but yawning gap, a vast emptiness that is potential itself. Hesiod says that first came chaos, then came Gaia, earth, and Eros, love, and Tartarus, the deep. Gaia emerges from the void as a fertile, self-sustaining body. She is Mother Earth. She gives birth to mountains, seas, and the starry sky. The sky is personified as Ouranos, also spelled Uranus. Gaia and Uranus become a pair, just as earth and sky are in many myths. Uranus is a vast dome stretching over the earth. He and Gaia have many children, including the 12 Titans, such as Cronus, Rhea, Oceanus, and others, the Cyclopes and the Hecatoncheires, 100-handed giants. But Uranus is fearful of his children's power, so he pushes them back into Gaia's womb, causing her pain. Gaia, frustrated, fashions a sickle and entrusts it to her youngest Titan, Cronus. When Uranus next embraces Gaia, Cronus emerges and castrates his father. The blood from Uranus falls onto the earth and sea, giving rise to the Erinyes, Furies, the giants, and even the goddess of love, Aphrodite, who emerges from the sea foam around Cyprus. With Uranus dethroned, Cronus becomes king of the Titans. Cronus and his sister Rhea have children of their own: Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, Poseidon, and Zeus. But Cronus fears a prophecy that he will be overthrown by his offspring, so he swallows each one as they are born. Rhea, outraged, hides her 6th child, Zeus in a cave on Crete and gives Cronus a stone wrapped in swaddling clothes instead. When Zeus grows up, he forces Cronus to disgorge his swallowed siblings. Together, the Olympian gods wage war on the Titans, a battle called the Titanomachy. With the help of the Cyclopes, who forge thunderbolts for Zeus, the Olympians triumph. They chain the Titans in Tartarus, deep under the earth. Zeus becomes the ruler of the sky, Poseidon the ruler of the sea, and Hades the ruler of the underworld. Gaia remains Earth herself, older than any god, still fertile, still standing. In these myths, the first gods are both abstract concepts and familial characters. Chaos is emptiness, Gaia is earth, Ouranos is sky, Tartarus is the abyss. Eros is desire, the force that drives creation. These beings interact, fight, and give birth. There is a sense of generational change. The older deities represent raw forces, while their children take on more human-like features. Titans embody natural phenomena like time, Cronus, memory, mnemosyne, and light, Hyperion. Olympians embody more social aspects like law, Zeus, and hearth, Hestia. But always Gaia endures. She is the green you feel under your feet when you walk barefoot on grass. The complexity of Greek creation goes far beyond the simple narrative we often hear. Hesiod's Theogony presents a genealogical account, but other traditions existed. The Orphic cosmogony, attributed to the mythical poet Orpheus, offers a different sequence. In Orphic myths, the cosmos begins with Chronos, time, and Ananke, necessity. From them comes ether, upper air, chaos, and Erebus, darkness. An egg forms in the ether, incubated by the winds. From this cosmic egg emerges Phanes, also called Eros Protogonos, or firstborn, a radiant deity with 4 eyes and golden wings. Phanes creates the world through his song. He becomes the father of night, Nyx, heaven, Ouranos, and earth, Gaia. Night then produces day and various other beings. In some versions, Phanes is swallowed by Zeus, who gains his powers. The Orphic tradition thus introduces more abstract forces, time, necessity, and a hermaphroditic, firstborn light. It emphasizes hidden knowledge and mystical union. Greek myths also include primordial beings like Nyx, night, and Erebus, darkness, who give birth to Ether and Hemera, day. Nyx's children are formidable: Hypnos, sleep; Thanatos, death; Moros, doom; the Fates, Nemesis, retribution, and others. The fact that night gives birth to both sleep and death speaks to the Greek understanding of death as a kind of sleep. Day emerges from night, reminding us of cycles. Another primordial, Pontus, the sea, is born of Gaia alone. He fathers sea deities like Nereus and Thaumas. From Nereus and Doris come the Nereids, sea nymphs, including Thetis, the mother of Achilles. Even the wild monsters of myth, Gorgons, Echidna, Typhon, trace their lineage back to these primordial unions. The Greeks were masters at layering stories. For every simple genealogical tree, there are local variations. In Argos, the earth goddess might be named Demeter, who also has her creation story, while in Crete, the most ancient goddess could be Rhea or a snake mother. Some scholars believe that the male sky god Uranos might have been superimposed on an older matriarchal tradition. The stories thus represent layers of social change. As patriarchal societies grew, male gods like Zeus took precedence over older female deities. Yet Gaia never disappeared because the earth remained fundamental. The Greek poets used these myths to explore deep themes. In Aeschylus's Prometheus Bound, the Titan Prometheus, who defies Zeus, is punished for giving fire to humans. At one point, the chorus calls upon Gaia, Ouranos, and Oceanus, the oldest powers, to witness Zeus's tyranny. This invocation shows that the primordials are still relevant. They represent a moral standard older than the Olympian laws. Hesiod himself warns of the dangers of hubris, excessive pride, and praises justice, Dike. Gaia, as the mother of all, often sides with justice. When Oedipus blinds himself, he prays to the Eumenides, later called the Erinyes, born from Uranos's blood. These furies protect the natural order by punishing wrongdoing. Thus, the first gods are not just cosmological, they are ethical anchors. In the realm of art, Greek vase painters depicted the birth of Aphrodite from sea foam, Cronus wielding a sickle, and Zeus hurling thunderbolts at the Titans. Sculptors carved Gaia rising from the earth, half hidden in reliefs on temples. These images convey the power and mystery of creation. The Greeks, like the Egyptians, saw their creation myths reflected in everyday life. When the ground trembled in an earthquake, they imagined giants stirring. When the wind howled through the mountains, they pictured Aeolus releasing storm winds. These first gods offered a vocabulary for natural phenomena. Later thinkers, like Plato and Aristotle, reinterpreted the myths. Plato, in his dialogue Timaeus, described a demiurge, craftsman, who fashions the world from pre-existing chaos using forms as blueprints. This demiurge is benevolent and rational, aligning cosmos with mathematics. Aristotle considered the unmoved mover a pure actuality that causes motion without itself changing. Although not called a god in the mythic sense, this concept echoes the idea of a first principle. The philosophers thus bridged myth and reason. The first gods transformed from personified beings to metaphysical causes. Greek creation stories traveled across the Mediterranean world. Roman poets adopted them, renaming gods. Zeus became Jupiter, Cronos became Saturn. They built temples to Saturn at the Forum and dedicated altars to Terra Mater, Earth Mother. The first gods of Greece thus influenced Western culture for millennia. Their names appear in our language: Chaos, Panic, from Pan, Nemesis, Titan, Herculean. Each word carries a piece of the old story. As we leave the Greek world, take with you the image of Gaia reclining, with cornucopia in hand, perhaps smiling at the foolish quarrels of her descendants. Remember that beyond the noise of gods, titans, and heroes lies the soft ground beneath your feet. Gaia is always there, ancient and patient. The Greeks told these stories not only as entertainment, but as deep metaphor. Chaos might represent the endless sea or the vast night sky. Gaia might be the tangible world. Eros might be the irresistible attraction that pulls atoms together. Even in their poetry, the Greeks implicitly wrestled with cosmology. How does order arise? Who made the mountains? Why does day follow night? Their answer: the first gods did it. The myth of Uranos's castration is startling, but it also explains why the sky and earth are separate. It explains why rain comes down, blood from Uranos, to fertilize the earth. It also hints at the cycle of power. Each generation must overcome the last. As you wander through the ruins of Delphi or the Acropolis, you can still see altars to Gaia. Farmers would give thanks to Demeter for crops, but they might also whisper to Gaia for protection. In Greek tragedies, the first gods sometimes appear as voices from the earth, warning kings of their hubris. The oracle at Delphi, dedicated to Apollo, originally served Gaia and was guarded by the serpent Python. So even the later gods could not escape the power of the first. Gaia was always there, listening. The serpent's slumber, the first gods of India. Traveling east again across mountains and deserts, we reach the Indian subcontinent. There, in the ancient Vedic texts, the creation of the world is told in rich hymns and philosophical riddles. The Vedas, compiled perhaps around 1500-500 BCE, are a tapestry of songs to the gods, offering praise, guidance, and speculation. One hymn, the Nasadiya Sukta, is perhaps the most famous of the Rig Veda's creation. Hymns. It begins. There was neither non-existence nor existence then. There was neither the realm of space nor the sky which is beyond. What stirred? Where? In whose protection? Was there water, bottomless and profound? The poet wonders if the gods themselves came after creation, and whether anyone knows the origin. This hymn is unusual because it leaves open the possibility that creation is a mystery known only to the one who looked upon it, if even he exists. It invites contemplation rather than giving a single answer. Another Vedic creation story is the Purusha Sukta. Purusha is the cosmic man, a giant being with 1,000 heads, 1,000 eyes, 1,000 feet. He envelops the entire universe. The gods sacrifice Purusha, and from his dismembered body parts come the elements of the cosmos. His mouth becomes the Brahman caste. His arms become the Kshatriyas, warriors. His thighs become the Vaishyas, traders. His feet become the Shudras, servants. The sun is born from his eyes, the moon from his mind, and the atmosphere from his navel. In this telling, there is no single first god. Rather, the cosmos itself is a body from which gods and humans arise. To explore the Indian creation myths deeply, we must delve into the Rig Veda, Yajurveda, and later Puranas. The Nasadiya Sukta, Hymn of Creation, is particularly mysterious. It suggests that before creation there was neither being nor non-being, neither atmosphere nor sky. Everything was covered by darkness. Then, in the beginning desire, Kama arose, the seed of mind. Some scholars interpret this as the emergence of will or impulse. The hymn ends with a remarkable twist. He who surveys it in the highest heaven, or does he not? He may or may not know. In other words, perhaps even the God who created the world does not know how it began. This open-endedness is rare in myth and reveals a skeptical philosophical streak in Vedic thought. The Upanishads, written later, present creation as a process of self-realization. The Chandogya Upanishad describes how, in the beginning, there was only the self, Atman, one and without a second. He thought, "Let me be many. Let me be born." The self then created the world through heat, tapas. The Taittiriya Upanishad describes how from Brahman came Akasha, space. From space came air. From air came fire. From fire came water. From water came earth. And from earth came plants and living beings. Each element evolves from the previous. These texts interpret creation not as a cosmic battle, but as a natural, compassionate unfolding. They emphasize the identity of Atman, self, and Brahman, ultimate reality. The first cause is consciousness itself. The Puranic texts, composed between ca. 300–1000 CE, elaborate on creation myths with colorful stories. In the Vishnu Purana, the universe begins with Narayana, Vishnu, sleeping on the serpent Ananta in the cosmic ocean. A lotus grows from his navel, and from it arises Brahma. Brahma creates the world and divides it into 7 continents and 7 seas. After each kalpa, a day of Brahma lasting 432 billion years, the world dissolves, only to be created again. In the Shiva Purana, creation begins when Shiva and Shakti unite. They manifest as Ardhanarishvara, a being half male, half female. From their dance, Tandava, comes the cosmos. In the Devi Bhagavata Purana, the supreme power is Devi, goddess. She creates Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, and instructs them in their roles. These stories reveal a plurality of first gods, each sect venerating its chosen deity as ultimate. Hindu cosmology also speaks of endless cycles. Each universe is a bubble in an infinite ocean. When one bubble pops, another forms. Each creation has its own Brahma, who emerges from Mahavishnu. Thus, creation is local. The first gods vary by universe. This fractal view of reality hints at a multiverse concept. Traditional mathematics of time in the Puranas expresses massive numbers. One day of Brahma equals 14 Manvantaras, each containing 71 Mahayugas, each Mahayuga having 4 yugas, Satya, Treta, Dvapara, Kali. The cycle scale inspires awe and humility. The first gods, then, are players in an immense cosmic drama. Beyond texts, temple rituals tell their own creation stories. At sunrise, priests in the South Indian temple of Kanchipuram chant the Suprabhatam, wake-up hymn, to Vishnu, who is called Jagannatha, Lord of the Universe. They treat him as the cosmic sleeper who must be awakened. In West Bengal, Devi Durga is honored in autumn during Durga Puja. Her idol is immersed in a river, symbolizing her return to the cosmic ocean. In Tamil Nadu, devotees recite the Tirukkural, praising the first. These rituals evoke the first gods as living presence. The ringing of bells, the smell of camphor, the rhythmic chants are part of creation's ongoing pulse. In Indian art, the cosmic creation appears in sculptures of Vishnu reclining on Ananta, in paintings of Ardhanarishvara, and in mandalas depicting the universe as a lotus with deities at its petals. In mathematics, Indian astronomers calculated planetary motions to align rituals. Myth and science were not strictly separate. Aryabhata and Bhaskara wrote treatises that, while scientific, acknowledged the cosmos as divine. In classical music, ragas are said to have originated from divine strains, a celestial creation of sound. As we depart India, consider the symbol of Om. It is said to contain all creation. A, U, and M represent waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. The silence after Om symbolizes the unmanifest. Chanting Om is like vibrating in harmony with the original creative sound. Perhaps our own first breath after birth is an echo of the cosmic Om. Later, Hindu texts introduce the figure of Brahma, sometimes called the Creator. Brahma is often depicted with four faces, facing the four directions. In many stories, he emerges from a lotus that springs from the navel of the sleeping god Vishnu, who floats on the cosmic serpent, Ananta on the primal ocean. Brahma then creates the universe. Yet Brahma is not the absolute beginning. He is part of a cycle. In some myths, before the lotus, there is a golden egg, Hiranyagarbha, floating in the cosmic waters. That egg splits in two, forming heaven and earth. In others, the cosmic sound Om vibrates and brings forth creation. In yet other stories, there is no beginning because the universe goes through endless cycles of creation, Srishti, and dissolution, Pralaya. The gods themselves are mortal on a cosmic time scale. Brahma lives for 100 years, each year composed of billions of human years, and then another Brahma appears. The first gods of India are not always anthropomorphic. Sometimes they are principles: Rita, cosmic order; tapas, heat or spiritual austerity; kama, desire. They are forces that cause creation to begin. The Upanishads speak of an unmanifest Brahman, pure consciousness beyond names and forms. From Brahman, through Maya, illusion, the world manifests. Thus, Brahman is not a god in the usual sense, but the ultimate reality from which all gods arise. In this view, even the first gods of myth are themselves forms of Brahman. When the ancient sages composed the Vedas under the starlit skies of the Ganges plain, they recognized the mystery of existence. Their hymns echo with humility. Who really knows? Who will hear proclaim it? Whence was it produced? Whence is this creation? The gods came afterwards with the creation of this universe. Who then knows whence it has arisen? Such questions were not just intellectual, but experiential. By chanting the names of Agni, Indra, Varuna, and others, they aligned themselves with cosmic forces. By meditating on the syllable Om, they tried to feel the vibration of creation within their own breath. Today, when you sit on the bank of the Ganges at sunrise and listen to the arti, you can feel those ancient currents. The first gods of India are not far away. They reside in the sound of mantra and the flickering flame. Giant bones and the frosty void. Norse cosmogony. Now we climb north to the lands of snow and pine where the Vikings later sailed. Here, in Norse mythology, creation emerges from ice and fire. Between the world of Niflheim, a realm of icy mist, and Muspelheim, a realm of fire, was Ginnungagap, a yawning void. When the cold of Niflheim met the heat of Muspelheim, the ice began to melt. From the melting ice emerged the first being, Ymir, a giant. As the frost melted further, a cow named Audumbla arose. Audumbla licked salty ice blocks. As she licked, a form emerged, Buri, the ancestor of the gods. Buri had a son, Bor, who married the giantess Bestla. Together they had 3 sons, Odin, Vili, and Ve. The brothers Odin, Vili, and Ve grew strong and eventually decided to kill Ymir, whose sweat produced a race of frost giants, Jotnar. With a savage blow, they slayed the great giant. From Ymir's blood they fashioned the ocean. His bones became mountains. His skull became the sky. His eyebrows created the fortress of Midgard where humans would live. From the sparks of Muspelheim, they made the stars. After shaping the world from Ymir's body, the gods found 2 fallen tree trunks on the shore. They carved them into humans. Odin breathed life into them. Vili gave them mind and movement. Ve gave them speech, hearing, and sight. These first humans were named Ask and Embla. Norse myths also tell of other primordial beings beyond Ymir. There is Audumbla, the cosmic cow, who nourishes Ymir with her milk. As she licks salty ice blocks, she uncovers Buri, the ancestor of the gods. Where did Audumbla come from? The myths simply say she was there when the frost melted. This suggests a mysterious, perhaps maternal presence behind creation. The 4 rivers that flow from Ymir's wounds, Sid, Vid, Leipter, and Ginnungagap's currents, become part of the world's structure. When Odin and his brothers create humans from driftwood, they do so carefully. Ask, Ash, and Embla, elm or vine, are not random names. The ash tree holds cosmic significance. Yggdrasil itself is an ash. Humans are thus part of the world tree, not separate from it. Their kinship with wood reminds us that in Norse thought, life is woody, resilient, and interconnected. In the Norse cosmos, the 9 worlds of Yggdrasil include realms that existed before the gods. Muspelheim is the realm of fire giants like Surtur, who will bring about Ragnarok. Niflheim is the cold, misty realm. There is also Vanaheim, home of the Vanir gods, who are associated with fertility, wisdom, and foresight. The Aesir, Odin's tribe, and Vanir originally warred but later exchanged hostages and shared knowledge. Njord, Freyr, and Freya, Vanir gods, joined the Aesir. Their arrival brought prosperity to the world. This suggests that creation is enriched by the union of different divine tribes. The cosmic tree Yggdrasil connects the worlds. It is nourished by waters from 3 wells: Urd, at the base, guarded by the Norns who spin fate; Mimir, source of wisdom, where Odin sacrificed an eye; and Vergelmir, roiling spring in Niflheim. A dragon, Nidhogg, gnaws at its roots. An eagle sits atop its branches. A squirrel named Ratatoskr runs messages between them, often stirring conflict. 4 stags nibble its buds, and bees harvest its sap. Every day, the gods hold their assemblies at Yggdrasil, receiving news from the Norns. This dynamic imagery shows creation as ongoing. The first gods did not finish their work. The cosmos needs constant tending. The tree's suffering, Nidhogg, and nourishment, the wells, mirror our world. Beauty and destruction coexist. Odin's quest for knowledge underscores the importance of wisdom in Norse cosmogony. He hanged himself from Yggdrasil, pierced by his own spear, for 9 nights to gain the runes, the letters that hold magical power. He offered his eye at Mimir's well. He travels disguised among humans, gleaning secrets. In one tale, he challenges the giant Vafthrudnir to a battle of wits. The last question he asks Vafthrudnir is, what did Odin whisper in the ear of Balder before Balder was laid on the pyre? Only Odin knows this, so the giant loses. This shows that creation is tied to knowledge and sacrifice. Odin, though a descendant of Ymir's killers, respects the primordial forces. he consults them. The story of Ragnarok, while an end, also contains seeds of a new beginning. When Surtur's fire burns the world and the sea rises, a few gods survive. Balder returns from Hel. Thor's sons, Modi and Magni, inherit his hammer Mjolnir. Two human children, Lif and Lifthrasir, hide in the wood Hodmimir and re-emerge. They drink dew, the world repopulates. The first gods of the New Age may differ from those of the Old Age. The cycle echoes the ash seeds sprouting after a forest fire. The Norse acceptance of fate, wired, does not preclude hope. It teaches that creation is cyclical and that one can find peace in participating in the cycle. Music and poetry played a role in transmitting Norse myths. Skalds memorized long lists of Kenning's metaphoric epithets for gods and creation. For example, Ymir's blood means the sea, Ymir's skull means the sky, Ymir's bone house means the earth. When hearing these kennings, listeners would picture the first gods. The use of poetry ensured the story's survival through cold winters. Today we read them in the Poetic Edda and Prose Edda, compiled by Snorri Sturluson in 13th century Iceland. Snorri, though writing after the Christianization of Scandinavia, preserved much of the old lore. Thus, the first gods survived because of human memory and storytelling. The Norse cosmos had 9 worlds, connected by the great ash tree Yggdrasil. At the top sat Asgard, home of the Aesir gods like Odin and Thor. Down below was Midgard for humans, Jotunheim for giants, Alfheim for light elves, Svartalfheim for dark elves, or dwarves, Muspelheim, Niflheim, Vanaheim, home of the Vanir gods, and Helheim. Odin, the All-Father, was not the first god but a descendant of Buri. He sacrificed himself on Yggdrasil to gain knowledge of runes. In these myths, creation is an act of violence and transformation. The world literally comes from the body of a giant. The first gods are not alone. There are giants and wolves and serpents. The cosmos is a battleground of forces. The Viking warriors who told these stories around hearth fires in winter listened to the skalds singing of Ragnarok, the end of the world. They knew that even the gods would die when the wolves swallowed the sun and the Midgard serpent rose. But they also knew that after Ragnarok, a new world would emerge from the sea, fresh and green, with a new sun and a handful of gods and humans who survived. In this cyclical view, the first gods were not absolutely eternal. They were part of a cosmic rhythm. The Norse creation story thus combines awe at the mysterious origins with acceptance that nothing lasts forever. This poignancy gives their tales a distinctive mood, a gentle melancholy that is also deeply inspiring. The Cosmic Egg and Pangu's Axe. Chinese Cosmogonies. Let us journey to ancient China, where New Year's firecrackers crackle and red lanterns sway. Here, myths of creation are complex and varied. In one version, as early as the 3rd century BCE, there was a giant named Pangu. At the beginning, Pangu slept inside a cosmic egg, the primordial chaos. The egg contained both yin, the passive dark, and yang, the active light, swirling together. One day, Pangu woke up and decided to break out. With a mighty strike, he cracked the egg. The heavy yoke of yin settled beneath, forming the earth. The light albumen of yang floated up, forming the sky. Pangu placed himself between them and pushed them apart, growing taller each day for 18,000 years. He held the heavens aloft so they would not collapse again. Finally, when he died of exhaustion, his breath became the wind and clouds, his voice the thunder, his left eye the sun, his right eye the moon. His hair became stars, his bones mountains, his blood rivers, his sweat rain, his muscles fertile soil, his hair transformed into trees, and so on. Thus Pangu's body gave form to the entire world. In some stories, fleas on his skin became humans. Another tradition speaks not of Pangu, but of Hundun, chaos, depicted sometimes as a faceless entity with no senses. Hundun is primordial shapelessness. The gods of the north and south wish to gift Hundun with senses, eyes, ears, mouth, but when they drill holes into his body, Hundun dies, and so creation begins. Elsewhere, the goddess Nuwa, or Nugua, crafts humans from clay. She first carefully molds high-quality people from yellow earth. Then, impatient, she dips a rope into mud and flicks it, creating more common people. In some accounts, Nuwa is also credited with repairing the heavens after they collapsed when a fierce warrior god, Gong Gong, banged his head against Mount Bujo, causing a pillar of the sky to break. Nuwa melts 5 colored stones to patch the sky and kills a giant turtle to cut off its legs, using them as new pillars to hold up the heavens. She then reestablishes order. In these Chinese myths, we see recurring themes. The concept of cosmic dualities, yin and yang, the idea of a cosmic egg or chaos, the notion of a giant whose body becomes the world, and the role of a creator or recreator goddess fixing the cosmos. There is often a cycle of destruction and restoration. Cosmic order breaks, and a goddess must mend it. These stories remind us that creation is not a one-time event. It is ongoing. Just as Pangu held up the sky daily, society must maintain order daily. Ancient Chinese texts offer varied accounts of creation. The Huainanzi, a 2nd century BCE Taoist work, begins with a state of non-being, Wu Yu. From non-being arose being, Yu. From being came Yang and Yin. These opposites produced the great harmony, Taihei, from which came the 4 seasons, the sun and moon, stars, and the myriad beings. The Zhuangzi describes chaos, Hundun, as a shapeless being with no openings. 2 gods wanted to help him by carving 7 holes so he could see, hear, eat, and breathe. But when they completed the holes, Hundun died. The story suggests that imposing order might destroy primal unity. Some scholars see it as a cautionary tale about interfering with the Tao. In Chinese folk religion, the Jade Emperor is often considered the ruler of heaven. Some stories say that the Jade Emperor was once mortal, who practiced virtues and was appointed as ruler after eons. Others elevate him as always divine. Beneath him are many gods and spirits, including kitchen gods, city gods, river gods, mountain spirits, and household deities. Most of these deities are not creators, but maintainers. They ensure that the world runs smoothly. The concept of heaven, Tian, as an impersonal force, also appears in Confucianism. Tian is moral order. The mandate of heaven, Tianming, granted the right to rule to virtuous emperors. When dynasties fell, people believed heaven had withdrawn its mandate. Thus, the first gods of China are often less personal and more like cosmic forces that monitor morality. Traditional Chinese art depicts the cosmic egg as a swirling sphere. Pangu stands with 1 foot on yin and 1 foot on yang, pushing them apart. Nuwa is painted repairing cracks in the sky with colorful stones, often accompanied by a compass and square representing order. Fuxi, Nuwa's consort, holds a square. Nuwa holds a compass. They symbolize the yin-yang relationship and the introduction of cultural innovations such as writing, fishing nets, and music. The 8 trigrams, Bagua, which form the basis of the I Ching, Book of Changes, are said to have been discovered by Fuxi on the back of a turtle or from cracks in tortoise shells after they were heated. These trigrams represent fundamental changes. Each consists of solid, yang, and broken, yin lines. They map the interplay between primal forces. Thus, the first gods in China are also inventors of divination and cosmic order. In Taoist cosmology, Laozi writes of the Tao giving birth to the one giving birth to 2, the 2 giving birth to 3, and the 3 giving birth to all things. What is the one? It might be qi, energy. The 2 are yin and yang. The 3 are heaven, earth, and humanity. Thus, the first gods could be heaven and earth themselves, and humanity participates in creation by harmonizing with the Tao. Taoist practices such as Tai Chi and Qigong aim to cultivate the primordial ki. In that sense, each person carries creation within. Chinese creation myths also emphasize moral lessons. When Gong Gong crashes into the cosmic mountain, causing sky columns to break, chaos follows. Fires blaze, floods surge, and monstrous creatures roam. Nuwa's repair not only restores physical order, but moral harmony. Humans must emulate Nuwa by fixing things. In times of social strife, scholars might recall Nuwa's story to urge emperors to act. The myth of Shenong, the divine farmer who tasted hundreds of herbs to discover medicine, also relates to creation. He created agriculture and medicine, allowing society to flourish. These cultural heroes are first gods in a moral sense. Today, temples in China still honor Pangu, Nuwa, Fuxi, and the Jade Emperor. People burn incense and pray for fertility, health, and harmony. They decorate New Year posters with images of Nian, the monster that is scared away by firecrackers. Even the act of lighting lanterns at Lantern Festival invokes the idea of light and darkness, reminiscent of the cosmic egg splitting open. Children hearing stories of Pangu and Nuwa may not take them literally, but feel connected to a long chain of tradition. In temples, priests would burn incense and recite prayers to heaven, Tian. The emperor, known as the Son of Heaven, performed rites at the Temple of Heaven in Beijing to ensure cosmic harmony. Nuwa and Fuxi, another primordial being, are often depicted together with serpent bodies intertwined. They represent marital harmony and creation. In Chinese art, Pangu is sometimes shown with wild hair and a beard, holding a hammer or axe. He stands between swirling clouds. The cosmic egg may appear as a swirling swirl behind him. The imagery is vivid, capturing a sense of movement and scale. The sun from the underworld. The Andes and Pacific crossing the Pacific. Let us listen to the Andean creation story. In the high mountains of Peru, among the snow-capped peaks and green terraces, the Inca told of Viracocha. Viracocha was a god of creation and civilization. In some accounts, he emerged from the foam of Lake Titicaca. In the beginning, he created a world of giants. But these giants turned wicked, so he turned them back into stone and created humans. He molded figures from clay and breathed life into them. He then taught them to live, giving them language, art, and tools. After instructing them, he traveled the world disguised as a beggar, watching his creations. He promised to return, but retreated across the Pacific Ocean. The Inca believed that their emperor, the Sapa Inca, descended from the sun. Yet above the sun was Viracocha, the invisible father of all. On the Polynesian islands, creation myths vary. In Maori tradition, there is the long night of Tepo and the emergence of Ranginui, Father Sky, and Papatuanuku, Mother Earth. Ranginui and Papatuanuku were locked in an embrace, their children trapped between them. In the darkness, the children wondered what light and space would be like. After debate, Tene, the god of forests, lay on his back and pushed his parents apart. Light flooded in. From that moment, the world took form. The children became gods of sea, war, wind, etc. The story resonates with the Egyptian and Greek tales. Earth and sky need to be separated for life to flourish. The first gods are not aloof. They are intimately connected, and sometimes they must be separated for creation to occur. In Andean cosmology, Viracocha is sometimes conflated with Tichi, or Tiki, Viracocha Pachayachachik, creator of all things. He emerges from the foam and commands the sun, moon, and stars to appear. The placement of the sun in Lake Titicaca matters. The Inca believed it to be the birthplace of the sun. Viracocha then travels the world disguised. In one tale, he encounters people who mock him. He punishes them with darkness, then forgives them when they repent. Another time, he weeps because humans suffer. His tears become rain. The first god here has empathy. He is sometimes shown with a beard, unusual for Andean imagery, which has led scholars to debate whether this iconography came from pre-Inca or contact influences. Regardless, Viracocha remains a symbol of creative compassion. The Inca credited him with founding culture, architecture, weaving, and agriculture. In Cusco, the Temple of the Sun, Coricancha, housed a golden statue of the sun god Inti. Yet behind Inti stood Viracocha. Polynesian cosmogonies extend far beyond the Maori. In Hawaii, the Kumulipo begins with Tepo, a series of darknesses. Creatures emerge in order: seaweed, sea urchins, insects, birds, fish, pigs, dogs, and humans. Each is paired with a chant. The Kumulipo links the chief lineage to these first beings. In Tonga, the god Tagaloa, creates islands by throwing down stones from heaven. In Tahiti, the supreme god Taiaroa hides inside a shell for eons. When he breaks free, he creates other gods and forms the world from his shell. He emerges alone like Adam, self-created. In Samoa, the god Tagaloa lives in the sky and sends a giant clam which births the goddess of the earth. These Pacific myths often emphasize the sea as womb, the sky as partner, and coral or shells as primary matter. The concept of separation of sky and earth appears again and again. In some versions, the separation is violent. In others, it is gentle. In Tongan myth, Maui, not the demigod of Disney fame, but a related figure, pushes the sky up with his hands, using his spear for leverage. In other tales, Maui fishes up the islands using a magical hook. The hook catches on land at the bottom of the sea. As he pulls, the islands emerge. He tells his brothers not to look back, but they do, causing the line to break and leaving the islands jagged. This story explains why the coasts are irregular. Maui also slows the sun to lengthen days. He is a trickster and benefactor. Though not the first god, he continues the creative work of the first gods by shaping the world. In Rapa Nui, Easter Island lore, the god Makemake is a creator. He uses his saliva and earth to form humans. He is also associated with the Birdmen cult. Each year, competitors would climb down cliffs, swim to a small island, collect a seabird's egg, and swim back. The first to bring the egg to Makemake's representative would be honored. This ritual connected the community to the god and to creation, reenacting the emergence from water to land. When we read these Pacific myths, we sense the profound relationship with the ocean. The sea is not a barrier, but a connective tissue. Islanders see creation as a series of voyages from night to day, from sea to land, from gods to humans. Canoes become wombs, islands become children, waves become songs. The first gods of the Pacific are navigators, fishers, and artists. In Hawaii, the Kumulipo chant tells of creation beginning from the blackness of night. Po'ele, Po'okioki, and Pokea, successive stages of darkness. Creatures arise from the darkness: sea creatures, land creatures, plants. Each era brings new beings. The chant describes how stars and islands emerge. The first humans appear near the chant's end. The Kumulipo is both history and cosmology, linking chiefs to divine origins. In each line, there is an appreciation for the natural world: coral polyps, tiny fish, ferns. The first gods here are the forces of nature themselves. Carved of wood and stone, Africa and the Dreamtime. Africa offers a multitude of creation tales. Among the Yoruba of West Africa, there is the god Olodumare, also called Olorun, who is the supreme creator. He sends his servant Obatala down from the sky with a snail shell full of sand, a black hen, a white hen, and a palm nut. Obatala pours the sand onto the water and sets the hen upon it. The hen scratches the sand, forming hills and valleys. Obatala plants the palm nut, which grows into a tree that seeds the rest of the world's vegetation. In another version, Olodumare sends Orishanla, or Oduduwa, to create land. Obatala later shapes human figures from clay. Olorun breathes life into them. The Yoruba pantheon includes other gods like Shango, god of thunder, Oya, goddess of wind and river, and Ogun, god of iron. But Olodumare I remains distant, seldom directly worshipped. He is pure, unchangeable, and beyond human comprehension. Yoruba mythology further tells of how humans acquired language. After Obatala formed them from clay, they were mute. Olorin breathed speech into them. This act parallels the breath of life in other myths. The Yoruba also tell of a great chain linking earth and heaven. At the beginning, gods could climb this chain. Humans and gods lived close. But as humans became more chaotic, the chain was withdrawn, leaving a distance. Nevertheless, drum music and sacrifice still carry messages between realms. The Yoruba are known for their intricate drums, which mimic speech tones. In ritual, the drummers call to the gods, and the gods possess devotees. The first gods thus remain accessible through rhythm. Among the Fon people of Benin, Mawu Lisa is a creator deity. Mawu, female, and Lisa, male, combine to form a twin god. In one version, Mawu Lisa created the world and then sent the serpent Da to support it. Da coils around the earth 3,500 times. When Da moves, earthquakes occur. Mawu gives Da a pot of water to cool the earth. The water can erupt as volcanoes. The concept of a world serpent echoes Norse Nidhogg and Indian Ananta. It suggests that the earth is dynamic and sustained by a being's body. In yet another version, Mawu and Lisa are separate. Mawu created the day and Lisa the night. Together they balance the world. Their children include gods of thunder, war, and iron. Their myth emphasizes duality and cooperation. In the Bambara, Mali tradition, there is Pharaoh, the spirit of water. Pharaoh is sometimes considered the twin of Pemba, earth. In one myth, the supreme god Ma Ngala created Pemba, who stole the seed of creation and became the earth. To restore balance, Ma Ngala created Pharaoh, who descended and sacrificed himself, flooding the earth to purify it. Pharaoh later restored order and taught humans agriculture. In Bambara cosmology, Pharaoh is not just a god, but a principle. It stands for water, speech, and order. Pemba stands for dry matter and disorder. Their interplay shapes the world. The Bambara use intricate masks and dance rituals to enact these myths. The masks represent spirits. The dance is a form of creation. Through repetition, they keep the world in balance. In the Zulu tradition of South Africa, the creator is Unkulunkulu, the Great Great One. In the beginning, the world was under a great reed. Unkulunkulu grew on a seed at the top. As he matured, he climbed down, created the earth, sun, and moon. He made humans and animals from reeds. He taught them to build fire, grow food, and brew beer. He then disappeared, leaving creation to run itself. Later, the god Umvelinkangi, Skyfather, arrives and interacts with humans. In one myth, Umvelinkangi asks a young woman to marry him. She consents and is carried to heaven on a rope of birds' legs. These stories express the idea that creation is a gift entrusted to humans. The gods are not always present, yet the sky, earth, and ancestors watch. Further south, the Sand people tell of Kagan, or Kagan, a trickster creator. Kagan is both creator and mischief maker. He can shape-shift into a mantis, a bird, or a man. He created animals and taught them names. Once, Kagan wanted to create rain, so he sent his adopted son, an eland, to run across the land, hoping his hooves would bring clouds. When the eland refused, Kagan turned him into a buck and cut his heart, from which rain came. This tale explains why elands are prized for their fat. For the San, animals are kin. The first god is a hunter, a storyteller, and a prankster. In Ethiopia, the Oromo people speak of Waka, or Wak, the creator. Waka first made the sun and moon, then formed the clouds, stars, and earth. He shaped humans from mud. After creating them, he breathed into their noses. He then appointed a dog to watch the sleeping humans and told a sheep to remain quiet. At night, a hyena bribed the dog with a bone to allow it to kill the sheep. The dog allowed the hyena to kill the sheep. Wak became angry and cursed the dog to be man's servant, while the hyena was cursed to eat carrion. This myth explains why dogs serve humans and hyenas are scavengers. It also reflects Oromo values, loyalty, trust, and consequences. African creation myths are as diverse as the continent's landscapes, but they share themes: the use of clay to shape humans, the breath of life, the separation of sky and earth, the moral lessons embedded in creation, the presence of tricksters, and the involvement of animals. The first gods are not distant. They reside in trees, rivers, mountains, and hearts. Rituals, dance, and storytelling keep them alive. Each time a drum beats or a mask is worn, creation is renewed. In the Dogon tradition of Mali, Amma is the creator god. In the beginning, Amma created the earth as a female being, then tried to mate with it. But the earth resisted, and a part of her became the fox. Eventually, Amma created two twins who were hermaphrodites, each containing both male and female energies. They were the Nomo, spiritual fish-like beings. The Nomo multiplied and taught humankind agriculture, weaving, and ways of living. Amma then created the sun and stars and set the world in motion. For the Dogon, the cosmos has a rhythm and a complex calendar tied to the star Sirius. The first gods here are entwined with the cycles of agriculture and the observation of stars. The Dogon people are known for their astronomical knowledge, particularly of the star system around Sirius. Among the San Bushman people of southern Africa, there is the story of Kaeng, the great master and lord of all life. Kaeng created the tree of life, which united every living thing. Animals, plants, and people lived at the tree's roots, safe from the harsh world above. Kaeng instructed everyone not to light fires because the smoke would reach heaven and scare the world away. But the people disobeyed. The smoke rose and frightened creation. So Kaeng separated heaven and earth, and people were forced to live separately, hunted by predators. Yet Kaeng did not abandon them. He gave them the gift of storytelling to remember his wisdom. So the first gods of the sand are not just creators, but teachers. In the Aboriginal Dreamtime stories of Australia, creation is not an event in the distant past, but an ever-present spiritual reality. The rainbow serpent is a common figure. She slithers through the flat, featureless earth, carving out rivers and valleys. She creates waterholes where life can thrive. The great ancestors, often animals or hybrid beings, travel across the land, naming things into existence. They may sing the world into being. Their tracks become songlines which Aboriginal people walk to remember creation. In the Dreamtime, there is no separation between sacred and mundane. Every rock, every waterhole, every animal is part of creation. The first gods are the land itself. To appreciate Dreamtime stories, imagine the vast Australian outback. The red soil stretches to the horizon, dotted with spinifex grass and acacia shrubs. To many Aboriginal people, these landscapes are ancestral faces. When an elder tells the story of the blue-tongued lizard, he is not just entertaining children, he is connecting them to a site, a path, a responsibility. Songlines are literal maps encoded in song. They guide people across the desert. Each verse corresponds to a geographical feature, a rock formation, a waterhole, a cluster of trees. By singing the song, one travels. This practice underscores the concept that creation is ongoing. By walking and singing, people renew the world. They ensure that the first god's actions continue. In some regions, the rainbow serpent is known as Yurlungur Ungud, or Galaroo. She is both creator and punisher. She protects water, but will devour those who disrespect it. She is often associated with gender fluidity, fertility, and transformation. In Arnhem Land, there is the story of how the rainbow serpent swallowed a group of children and later vomited them up, transformed into the first clans. In Central Australia, the Wadi Kujara, 2 men, and the 7 sisters, Pleiades, travel the land. Their interactions chase, concealment, teasing create mountains and valleys. In some dreaming tracks, the ancestral beings do not speak human language, but express themselves in animal calls, which become songs. The Yorta Yorta people tell of Boy Boy, who created everything. He gave each animal a song. The Jinung speak of Wurugag and Waramurungunju, a man and a woman who came down from the sky. They created language and taught people how to make tools. They then ascended back into the stars as the Southern Cross. The Yawis, beings half human, half animal, roamed the earth before humans. When they slept, they turned to stone, becoming mountains. Such stories teach respect for the landscape. Every hill may be someone's ancestor. The dream time also addresses death. In one tale, the moon man, Bahlu, was once a man who refused to die, so he became the moon and cycles across the sky. The sun woman, Yahai, chased him. Their chase created the day-night cycle. When a warrior died, his spirit joined the dream time. He might become a star or a tree. Death, then, is a return, not an end. The first gods ensure that there is always continuity. Even conflict and transgression serve to create and renew. Modern Aboriginal communities continue to hold Dreamtime ceremonies. They paint figures on rocks, carve boomerangs with ancestral symbols, and teach children how to read tracks. Despite colonization, the Dreamtime persists. It is not only a myth, but a living philosophy. The first gods here remind us that stories are not just about the past. They are instructions for living. Blood and Maize, Mesoamerican Beginnings. Turning to the Americas again, we see in Mesoamerican cultures a fascination with cycles of suns and ages. The Popol Vuh, the sacred book of the Quiche Maya, recounts how the gods attempted to create humans multiple times. First, they made people from mud, but these beings lacked souls and melted when it rained. Then, they made people from wood. These wooden men were stronger but lacked hearts and minds. They were destroyed by a flood and by their own tools. Finally, the gods ground white and yellow maize into dough and shaped true humans. These maize people were strong, wise, and grateful. In the Popol Vuh, the first gods, Heart of Sky, Huracan, Quetzal Serpent, Kukulkan, and the Maker, Tzakol, decide to create and test humankind. They speak to each other. Let us do it. Let us try again. The maize humans are also flawed. They can see too much, so the gods breathe on their eyes to cloud them slightly. The first gods of the Maya are thus intimately involved with agriculture. Maize is life. Thus, humans are made of maize. The Aztecs tell of 5 suns. Each sun is a different era. In the beginning, 4 gods, Tezcatlipoca, Smoking Mirror, Quetzalcoatl, Feathered Serpent, Tlaloc, Rain, and Chalchiuhtlicue, Precious Green-Blue Skirt, create a sun. The first sun is ruled by Tezcatlipoca, but it lasts only 676 years before being destroyed by jaguars. The second sun, ruled by Quetzalcoatl, lasts 364 years before wind destroys it. The third sun, ruled by Tlaloc, ends in fire rain. The fourth sun, ruled by Chalchiuhtlicue, ends in a flood. The fifth sun, created when the gods sacrifice themselves, is the current age. It needs the nourishment of human hearts to sustain it. In these stories, the first gods are not singular, but a group. They discuss and argue, perform sacrifices, and decide the world's fate. The sun's cyclical nature requires constant renewal. Creation is fragile and needs tending. The concept of multiple creations also appears among the Olmecs, Zapotecs, and Mixtecs. In the Popol Vuh, the first attempt at creating humans fails because the beings have no worship or understanding. The second attempt fails because the wooden humans lack soul and reverence. Only the third attempt succeeds with maize. This emphasis on maize underscores its centrality. For Mesoamericans, maize is not just food, it is the substance of life. Growing maize involves burning and clearing, planting and watering, harvesting and grinding. The gods' struggles mirror the farmer's toil. The gods bleed, farmers sweat. Quetzalcoatl, Kukulkan, plays multiple roles. He is a feathered serpent, a combination of sky, feather, and earth, snake. He steals maize from underworld gods and gives it to humans. He descends to the underworld to retrieve the bones of previous races. He grinds these bones and mixes them with his blood to create humans. Once he and Tezcatlipoca turned themselves into monstrous fish to search the primeval waters for lost treasures. They fish up the earth goddess, Chipactli or Tlaltecuhtli, a monster whose body becomes the world. Yet she remains conscious and demands sacrifice. Her mouth becomes the mountains, and her hair becomes trees. Her blood becomes rivers. The gods must honor her with blood, lest she devour the world. Thus, sacrifice is not cruelty, but reciprocity. In Toltec mythology, there is Ometeotl, a dual god combining male, Ometecutli, and female, Ometzihuatl. Ometeotl lives in Omeocan, the highest heaven. This god creates Tonacatecutli and Tonacachihuatl, a divine pair who then create 4 sons: red Tezcatlipoca, Sipetotec, black Tezcatlipoca, Quetzalcoatl, and Huitzilopochtli. These 4 then create the world. Ometeotl, like Anu or Mawulisa, embodies duality. It suggests that the first being is both male and female, reminiscent of Ardhanarishvara. Ometeotl is rarely depicted. He is more a philosophical concept than a mythic character. The Aztecs also believed that gods created humans from maguey thorns and gave them pulque, fermented agave drink, to lighten their sorrows. The goddess Mayahuel, who embodies the maguey plant, is sometimes called the mother of humanity. The god Centeotl is maize. The deity Sipetotec flays himself to feed humans. His shed skin becomes seeds. In the spring, people wore flayed skins to symbolize renewal. These gruesome images underscore the idea that life comes from sacrifice, a common thread across myths. In addition to the Popol Vuh, the Quiche Maya had the books of Chilam Balam, which contain histories, prophecies, and accounts of creation. They describe how Balam Quitze, Balam Akab, Mahukuta, and Ikibalam 4 hero twins received maize and fire from gods. These heroes led their people to a promised land after long migrations. In other words, creation is also social. The first gods guide communities through geography and time. Each mountain or cave is sacred because it marks a stopping place or a divine dwelling. Today, many Mesoamerican communities continue rituals that recall their cosmogonies. In rural Guatemala, Maya families scatter incense and flowers on altars, reciting prayers to Hunabku, one god, and the heart of sky. In Mexico, the Danza de los Voladores, Dance of the Flyers, features men climbing a pole, representing the connection between earth and sky. They tie ropes and whirl downward, evoking descent from the heavens. The dance is said to appease the gods of rain and fertility. The first gods live in these dances and songs. Microcosm of the mind. Philosophical first causes. While many myths speak in images, water, mountains, eggs, giants, some ancient thinkers sought to explain the first gods in more abstract terms. In ancient Greece, philosophers like the pre-Socratics contemplated the fundamental substance. Thales of Miletus said that everything is ultimately water. Anaximander posited the apeiron, the boundless. Anaximenes believed air was primary. Heraclitus asserted fire. Empedocles introduced 4 roots: earth, air, fire, water stirred by love and strife. These were not gods per se, but their language echoed myth. Empedocles personified love, philia, and strife, nekos, as forces causing unity and separation. Similarly, the Pythagoreans saw number, particularly the monad, as divine. For them, one unity begot all numbers. This resonates with monotheistic ideas, the one producing the many. Elsewhere, the ancient Ionian thinkers like Xenophanes criticized anthropomorphic gods. He said if horses could paint, they would depict gods as horses. He argued for an eternal, immutable, spherical God. His idea of a singular divine echoed later monotheism. Parmenides described the one as unchanging and timeless, denying the reality of change. For him, creation is illusory. The first cause is beyond time. His pupil Zeno wrote paradoxes to show that plurality is impossible. Melissus extended these ideas, describing being as limitless. These thinkers replaced narrative with metaphysics. In South Asia, Buddhist texts also reconsider creation. The Buddha refused to answer questions about the beginning of the world, calling them unprofitable. He focused on ending suffering. However, later Buddhist cosmology describes cycles of kalpas and cosmic winds. The Abhidharma speaks of a first mind that arises in each cycle. Jain cosmology posits an eternal universe with 6 categories: living beings, matter, dharma, motion, adharma, rest, time, and space. There is no creator. Existence is beginningless. This contrasts with creation myths, but addresses the same sense of wonder. Zoroastrianism, an ancient Iranian religion, tells of Ahura Mazda, wise lord, as the uncreated creator. He emanates 6 holy immortals, Amesha Spentas. Angra Mainyu, the destructive spirit, opposes him. Their battle shapes the world. Ahura Mazda is both transcendental and immanent. He is in fire, sun, and truth. The Zoroastrians invented an ethical dualism that influenced later Abrahamic thought. In their creation, Ahura Mazda recites the Ahuna Vairya prayer, creating the spiritual world. Later, he creates the material world. Angra Mainyu counter-creates destruction. This dualism reflects the interplay of good and evil that many myths address. In West Africa, the Akan concept of Niame includes the notion of Niamensu, divine water, reflecting a first principle akin to water cosmologies. In the Americas, Navajo philosophy describes Diyin Dineye, holy people, rather than a single creator. The holy people changing woman, talking God, black God, create the first world and its creatures, teaching humans rituals. They are both deities in psychological aspects. Changing woman embodies growth and transformation. In modern physics, some scientists compare the first causes to quantum fluctuations. The vacuum is not empty, it teems with potential. The Big Bang may have emerged from a singularity or a quantum bounce. Cosmologists use terms like inflation and false vacuum. These are not gods, but they function like first principles. The cosmic microwave background radiation is an echo of our origin, like a modern myth. Astrophysicist Carl Sagan once said, "We are a way for the cosmos to know itself." This statement turns the search for first gods inward. We, as conscious beings, are the first cause reflecting on itself. Whether through myth or math, the urge to explain remains. The first gods, whether Tiamat or Trinity, Nuwa or nothingness, represent our quest to anchor ourselves in the vast. We continue to ask, what came first? Is there an uncaused cause? Does it matter? The answers are as varied as humanity. In China, philosopher Laozi wrote of the Tao, an ineffable principle. The Tao gave birth to one gave birth to two gave birth to three gave birth to the myriad beings. The Tao is not a god, but it functions as the first cause. It is like water soft, yet strong, nourishing all. The first gods in this philosophical sense are not anthropomorphic, but underlying principles. They are the patterns by which existence flows. The yin-yang symbol, Taijitu, shows the interplay of opposites. Creation is a dance between them. In India, the Samkhya philosophy posits Purusha, consciousness, and Prakriti, matter, as the two primary realities. Purusha is passive, the observer. Prakriti is active, producing the universe through its three gunas, qualities: sattva, balance; rajas, activity; tamas, inertia. In this view, the first cause is dual. Creation arises when Purusha interacts with Prakriti. This is mirrored in the tantric view of Shiva and Shakti consciousness and energy. In some interpretations, the first god is not male or female, but the balance of both. In Jewish and Christian monotheistic traditions, the first god is singular, YHWH, Yahweh in Hebrew texts. In Genesis, God, Elohim, creates the heavens and the earth in 6 days. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. The first act is not war or dismemberment, but speech. Let there be light. God speaks and light exists. Then God separates light from darkness, waters above from waters below, land from sea, and fills them with creatures. Finally, God creates humans in His own image. The first God here is omnipotent and transcendent. He is not born or killed. He simply is. His name, I Am, reflects that. Many interpret the Hebrew Elohim as plural, though context suggests a singular God. In Christian theology, God is Triune Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Yet the first cause remains one. Islam speaks of Allah, also one God, who creates by command, be, kun. The Quran says He is the first and the last, the Most High and the most near. The first cause is beyond human forms. There are no anthropomorphic first gods, only the Creator. Yet early Arab tales speak of older deities like Allat, Al-Uzza, and Manat, daughters of Allah in pre-Islamic polytheism. But Islamic monotheism rejects those, focusing on the singular Creator. For Muslims, the first cause is not just a distant figure, but intimately involved in every moment. Each breath depends on Him. Embers in the ice, Finno-Ugric, and Baltic myths. In the far north of Europe, the Sami people, or Lap, tell of creation. The Sami world is inhabited by deities tied to the land: Madaraka, mother of the earth; Madaraka's daughters Saraka, Juksaka, and Uksaka, who help with childbirth. Radianatya, sometimes spelled Radianaka, is a supreme being who watches over the cosmos. Some compare Radianatya to the Christian God after contact with missionaries. In traditional Sami lore, the creator might be a woman, Sareka, Saraka, goddess of fertility and child-raising. She forms humans in the womb. The first gods here are intimately tied to women's bodies and to reindeer, fish, and the rhythms of the Arctic. The Sami believe that before birth, each soul chooses its family. Saraka guides this soul into the womb. After birth, Uksaka protects the child at the door, warding off spirits. Saraka helps girls become mothers. Juksaka teaches boys to be hunters. Thus, creation is not a past event, but a continuous guardianship. Reindeer calves, fish spawning, birds migrating, all echo the first creation. Among the Finns, the Kalevala epic speaks of how the world formed. In this poem, a maiden of the air, Ilmatar, floats above the sea. She grows weary and lays down on the waves. A divine duck lays its eggs on her knee. The eggs heat up and break. The eggshell becomes the sky. The lower half becomes the earth. The yolk becomes the sun. The white becomes the moon and stars. Ilmatar then shapes the land, creating hills and capes. Later, she gives birth to Wainamoinen, a wise singer. In this tale, the first god is not a humanoid, but a mother of the elements. The Finnish creation is gentle and watery, like the sound of ice crackling on a lake in spring. The Kalevala continues beyond creation. Wainamoinen, born of the sea and wind, wanders the world singing. His songs change the landscape. He battles Youkahainen, a foolish youth, by singing him into a bog. He courted the maiden Aino, but she turned into a salmon rather than marry. Wainamoinen is both a creator and a seeker. In one episode, he and his companions journey to the land of Pohjola to forge the Sampo, a magical mill that produces salt, grain, and gold. The Sampo stands for prosperity. It is created by Ilmarinen, another hero, from a swan's quill, a grain of barley, and other ingredients. After the Sampo is stolen by the mistress of Pohjola, Wainamoinen recovers it, but it breaks and its pieces scatter, fertilizing Finland's land. This myth suggests that creation is a process of making, breaking, and redistributing. Baltic myths share themes with their Finno-Ugric neighbors. In Lithuanian folklore, the goddess Sol, the sun, and her husband Manulis, the moon, are primal deities. Sol rides across the sky in a golden boat, followed by her daughter, the morning star. In some stories, Sol gives birth to the world. Perkunas, the thunder god, splits the waters with his axe, forming rivers. The Latvian Dinas folk songs mention Dievs, God, and Laima, fate, as first forces. Laima's decision at a newborn's cradle determines their destiny. In one creation tale, God sends a duck to fetch sand from the bottom of the sea. The duck hides some of the sand under her wing. When God spreads the sand to form the earth, the hidden sand falls out and forms hills and mountains. This story explains the region's topography and teaches that even disobedience can create beauty. The Estonian epic Kalevapoeg tells of the hero Kalevapoeg, Kalev's son, and his giant deeds. He is born of Linda and Kalev, early humans. Kalevapoeg digs rivers with his plow, lifts boulders to build hills, and travels to Hell to rescue souls. His father Kalev can be seen as a culture hero akin to Prometheus. He brings agriculture and builds cities. While not first gods, their actions continue creation. In the background is Ukko, the Sky Father, who controls thunder and rain. Estonians offered him bread, beer, and flax. He sometimes appears as an old man with a beard or as a lightning bolt. His wife, Ilmatar, sometimes conflated with the Finnish maiden of the air, births the wind. The dance between Ukko and Ilmatar's storm and calm shapes the seasons. In the far north, the concept of the world tree appears as well. The Sami speak of the white reindeer whose antlers hold the sky. When the white reindeer lowers its head, the northern lights shimmer. The tree or animal supporting the sky echoes the world trees of Siberian shamanism, where the shaman climbs its trunk to the upper worlds. Arctic drums often depict this cosmic tree. The first gods of the Finno-Ugric peoples are thus not remote, but present in the aurora borealis, in the howl of wolves, in the creak of ice. They are glimpsed when you cross snowfields under a full moon. The mountains that breathe, African, Korean, and other voices. There is no single first god story across Africa. Each culture has its own. Among the Akan of Ghana, Nyame is the sky god who created the world. He sent a python to ask the earth if it would allow humans to live. The python, lazy, said nothing. So Nyame cursed the python, making it crawl forever. He then asked the snail, which agreed. Nyame created humans. In Korean myth, the creator is sometimes Hwanung, who descends from heaven and finds a bear and a tiger praying to become human. The tiger gives up, but the bear endures 100 days in a cave eating garlic and mugwort. It becomes a woman. Hwanung marries the bear woman, and their child Dangun Wanggeom becomes the first king of Korea. Dangun is thus divine. In Japan, creation is told in the Kojiki. It begins with the appearance of heaven and earth, and the first gods, Izanagi and Izanami. They stand on the floating bridge of heaven, stir the sea with a jeweled spear, and drip water that forms the islands. Izanagi and Izanami then create gods and monsters. When Izanami dies giving birth to the fire god, Izanagi travels to the land of Yomi, the dead, to retrieve her. He fails and returns, cleansing himself in a river. From the water that falls from his eyes and nose, new gods are born. Amaterasu, the sun goddess, from his left eye, Tsukuyomi, moon god, from his right eye, and Susanoo, storm god, from his nose. These deities become the ancestors of Japan's imperial line. Korean creation myths reflect the peninsula's mountainous landscape. In addition to Dangun's story, there is the tale of Jumong, founder of Goguryeo, who emerges from an egg laid by Lady Yuhua after she was impregnated by sunlight. The egg floats down a river and is found by King Gyumwa. Jumong grows up skilled in archery, eventually founding a kingdom. The myth underscores a divine ancestry for rulers. In some versions, Hwanung himself organizes agriculture, law, medicine, and weather. He sends 3 heavenly seals with the bear woman, representing heaven's mandate. In more shamanistic traditions, the goddess Samson-Halmoni, 3 goddesses' grandmother, creates life. She attends to childbirth. Her shrines are marked by birch trees and flags. Offerings are made for fertility. These stories emphasize the role of women as creators and the connection between mountains and heaven. Japanese cosmology expands beyond the Kojiki. The Nihon Shoki presents several variants of creation, including one where the primordial beings Kunitokotachi and Amenomina Kanushi appear alone, then create gods who create others. Kunitokotachi, whose name means earth eternal standing, remains hidden and revered in shrines. The creation of the islands, Kuniumi, and the gods, Kamiumi, is followed by the descent of Ninigi no Mikoto from heaven to earth, carrying the 3 imperial regalia: mirror, purity; jewel, benevolence; and sword, bravery. Ninigi is the grandson of Amaterasu. His great-grandson Jimmu becomes the first emperor. Thus, the first gods legitimize imperial rule, yet beyond politics, these myths permeate daily life. Shrine priests perform Shinto rituals thanking kami, gods, for rice harvests and safe voyages. People draw omikuji, fortune papers, at shrines, trusting that the first gods guide their fates. Other Asian myths also speak of mountains and breath. The Vietnamese creation myth tells of Lac Long Quan, a dragon king, and Ao Ko, a mountain fairy. They marry and have 100 eggs that hatch into 100 sons. The sons split, half go with the mother to the mountains, half with the father to the sea. Their descendants become the Vietnamese people. This dual origin parallels yin and yang and earth and water. It acknowledges the country's geography, highlands, and coastline. The first gods here are dragon and fairy, bridging animal and spirit. Central Asian tales, such as the Mongolian myth of Erlik, Erli, speak of a time when there was only water. Ulgan, the sky god, sends a golden-bodied bird to dive down and bring up mud. The bird returns with mud, which expands into earth. Ulgan creates humans from the mud and invites Erlik, his brother, to help. Erlik adds hair and nails. When humans awaken, they revere Erlik because of their hair, forgetting Ulgan's role. Ulgan then divides the world into 3 realms: heaven, earth, and underworld. Erlik becomes lord of the underworld. The myth explains human hair and the existence of good and evil. The first gods are again a pair of brothers, echoing dualism. A night under the stars, reflecting on creation. Why did our ancestors tell these stories? Imagine yourself thousands of years ago, lying on your back on cold ground, gazing up at the Milky Way. You might wonder, where did all this come from? In the dark, your mind would conjure images: a cosmic egg cracking, a serpent coiling in the waters, a giant's bones turning to mountains. You would look at the first light at dawn and call it Atum. You would see the swirl of stars and call it Anu. You would feel the earth under your fingers and call it Gaia. These names were poetry. They were anchors to make sense of the vastness. The first gods were also lessons. Atum taught that creation could come from one. Anu taught that the heavens rule. Gaia taught that the earth is mother to all. Enki taught that wisdom flows like water. Cronus taught that time devours. Brahma taught that creation is cyclical. Pangu taught that sacrifice sustains. Viracocha taught that kindness to the weak matters. Nuwa taught that broken things can be fixed. Odin taught that knowledge requires sacrifice. Radi and Atya taught that a supreme being can be father and mother. Ilmatar taught that beauty emerges from patience. Hundun taught that chaos can't be easily tamed. The rainbow serpent taught that water brings life. These myths endure because they speak to something universal: awe, fear, love, curiosity. As you read or listen to these stories tonight, you might think of the first gods not as external beings, but as aspects of your own mind. When you create art, you're Atum forming something from nothing. When you separate your thoughts to see clearly, you're Shu dividing Geb and Nut. When you stand your ground against injustice, you're Marduk cutting Tiamat's chaos. When you let go of rigid beliefs, you are Odin sacrificing one eye for wisdom. When you rest after hard work, you are Pangu letting your body nourish the world. When you love deeply, you are Eros drawing opposites together. When you become still, you are Brahman. The first gods are metaphors for our own creative power and our own part in the cosmos. The quiet atom. Return to Egypt. Let us finish our journey where we began, in Egypt, under the silent stars that reflect in the Nile. Imagine the lotus flowers closing at dusk, the papyrus reeds whispering secrets. In the temples along the river, priests extinguish the last lamp. They recite final prayers to Atum. May you return tomorrow with the morning sun. May your children Shu and Tefnut keep the air and moisture in balance. May Geb sleep soundly beneath us, and Nut hold the stars in her embrace. In their chambers, mothers hum lullabies to their children, telling them not to fear the dark, for Atum will bring light. Fishermen pull their nets, trusting that the flood will come again next season. The first gods are there in every shadow and ripple. They are not far away. They are here, woven into the very fabric of being. You close your eyes, and you're back in the primordial waters of none. You float, weightless, in warm darkness. Somewhere deep within you, a voice stirs. I am Atum. I am the beginning and the end. I am alone, and yet I am all. From me comes air, moisture, earth, and sky. From me comes Osiris, Isis, Seth, Nephthys. From me comes kingship and sorrow. From me comes life and death. Atum is not speaking from outside, but from your own center. Your breath is Shu, your tears are Tefnut. Your bones are Geb, your mind is Nut. Your love is Isis, your rage is Seth, your hope is Osiris. As you drift off to sleep, the first gods gather around your bed. Atum places a golden hand on your brow, whispering reassurance. Anu unfurls a sky of stars above your head. Gaia cradles your body as the earth. Enki lets gentle water flow beneath your pillow. Cronus keeps time softly, his sickle replaced by a gentle metronome. Brahma hums the syllable Om under his breath, a cosmic lullaby. Pangu stretches his arms to keep nightmares at bay. Viracocha sits at your feet like a calm father. Nuwa mends any cracks in your heart. Odin watches over the doorway. Radi and Atya wraps you in light. Ilmatar breathes a sea breeze across your face. Hundun humbles you with mystery. The rainbow serpent coils around your bed, shining and protective. Orishanla sprinkles clay dust over you to remind you of your origins. Maui from Polynesia fishes up dream islands for you to visit. Tene whispers the names of trees you've never seen. The first gods are not scary. They are gentle, watching. Far away, the Nile ripples, reflecting the stars. In Mesopotamia, reeds rustle along canals. In Greece, a goat bells softly among olive groves. In India, the Ganges murmurs holy syllables. In China, bamboo sways in the wind. In Scandinavia, a raven caws. In Australia, a didgeridoo echoes. In Africa, drums beat. In the Americas, maize leaves rustle. The first gods smile. They are not jealous of each other. They know they are all part of the one great story. They know we need stories to sleep and to wake. They know that when we breathe out, we create a new universe in our mind. They are with us when we look up in wonder, and they will remain with us as long as we continue to imagine. So, rest now. The first gods of ancient earth have sung you their lullabies. You have traveled across deserts, rivers, mountains, forests, and seas. You have met Atum and Anu, Gaia and Brahma, Pangu and Ymir, Nuwa and Odin, Viracocha and the rainbow serpent. You know that the world is full of beginnings, and that each beginning is also an end. You know that myth and reality are not separate. They dance together like shadows and light. You know that you are both small and vast, a speck of dust and a cosmic ocean. Let the first gods watch over your dreams. Good night.